Well, there are three things necessary for cryptocurrency to exist. The first is that it's a digital currency, meaning that there is no physical notes, no physical coins for it to exist in any way. Canada has a currency, of course, that's the physical dollar or the nickel, the dime, the quarter. So it's not a cryptocurrency at all. It's a real currency, but a digital currency. Second thing you need for it to be a cryptocurrency is you have to have an accounting system, a digital accounting system behind the scenes, keeping track of the transactions, making sure the value is there and that people are not counterfeiting or otherwise inventing cryptocurrency as it goes. For something like Bitcoin, that background is called blockchain, and that's where the two get connected. And then the third thing for it to be a cryptocurrency is that it's not issued by a country, it's not issued by a government. So the Canadian dollar is backed by the Bank of Canada, the US dollar is backed by the Federal Reserve Board, the British pound by the Bank of England. But something like a Bitcoin or Ether or Ripple, these are just individuals, corporations out there that are issuing these things, and they're the people who stand behind it. It is not a country. So if you put those three things together, digital, the background accounting system, if you will, and then the idea that it's not a country behind it, that's what gives you the cryptocurrency. I'm not the biggest fan of cryptocurrencies is that they aren't being used as a currency. Now, when they were invented, the idea was to create another payment medium so that I could buy a Jaguar, but rather than using Canadian dollars or US dollars or euros or something like that, I could buy it with Bitcoin, and it would allow me to earn my Bitcoins maybe in India and buy something from, I don't know, from England and not have to worry about all the transaction costs and the exchange rates, what have you. The other thing it would allow me to do, by the way, is also buy things without government paying attention, because this digital accounting system is kept up on cloud computing. Little parts of the ledger are everywhere. They're all heavily encoded to make sure that they can't be broken into. This is also why it's called cryptocurrency. So that's what it's supposed to be used for. However, the vast majority of people buying Bitcoin have no intention to use it as a currency. Instead, what we find is that these cryptocurrencies are being used like gold, where I just buy it and hold on to it, buy it and hold on to it. So what you see is a very thinly traded currency. The Canadian dollar is traded millions of times a day, so the value reported is pretty accurate. But if a digital currency is only traded, you know, a couple hundred times a day or a couple of thousand times a day, then is it really worth $30,000? Or are a couple of people colluding? I'll sell some coin to you at 20,000. You sell it back to me at 21,000, then I'll sell it to you at 22,000. And what's being reported is really high value, but is it being manipulated? And that's why we tend to see cryptocurrency go up and all of a sudden fall down and go up and fall down. When we see this in something like the Canadian dollar, it's because we have some confidence in the Canadian economy. We think, oh, that country is not doing as well. Oh, we're not as keen on the currency. But here, it's like a heartbeat, and we're not really sure why. And I have to be candid with you. I'm not sure a Bitcoin is worth $30,000 or $20,000, even if that's what it says, because I don't understand the trading mechanism. If it was used as a currency, and here again is a sort of a negative part of a cryptocurrency, the people who tend to use this as a currency tend to be fairly nefarious type of people. So if I am a drug dealer, if I'm organized crime, maybe I'm just a terribly wealthy individual, but I don't want the government looking over my shoulder to see how I'm spending my money, then I can use Bitcoin for transactions. These transactions cannot be monitored by the government, and it works well. But ordinary citizens don't go into McDonald's and order a Big Mac and pay with a Bitcoin, even though in some McDonald's you could. They just don't do that. And that's the problem about valuing it. It's called a currency, but it's not being used like a currency. There's something like 24 of these cryptocurrencies out there in the world today. The number one is Bitcoin. Market capitalization is probably around $125 billion, maybe more, and it's the dominant one. The next biggest currency is called Ether, and the company behind it is called Ethereum. It's probably around $15 to $20 billion of capitalization. The third is Ripple. The code for it is XRP, and it's a little smaller, probably around $15 billion. Ripple, just before Christmas of 2020, has had some problems and might actually be delisted by the end of the year. Again, some of this insider trading and manipulation that has led people to think that maybe the value being reported is not real. Now, I share all of this because I don't know what the future of those currencies are going to be necessarily. I also know that every major government in the world, Canada, the United States, Britain, etc., are looking at taking their currencies and making them totally digital. This again, let me say that another way, that I think in this decade, at some point, the announcement will come that we will no longer print Canadian dollar bills, we will no longer print coins, and we're going to move completely to a digital framework administered by the Bank of Canada. So they will come up with their own form of a digital currency. It will not be a cryptocurrency, but a digital currency. So I don't know then if we're going to need Bitcoin if they follow a similar kind of an approach. However, having said that to you, I think the hottest thing about these digital currencies is the accounting system behind the scenes. We call that blockchain. Now, it's a little hard to explain, but it's a distributed cloud-based system, and no one computer holds all of the pieces. Pieces are held in millions of computers around the world, and that allows an audit process to make sure that the Bitcoin you're selling me is actually a valid Bitcoin and not something you created. This is great news, the distributed computing. This is great news, and this is what is supposed to be the big value of this. For instance, we spend a lot of money, companies spend a lot of money being audited by accounting firms to say that their books represent real, honest-to-God transactions. Well, if they all adopted blockchain behind the scenes, you might not need auditors. You'd have a guarantee of this given the trail. The downside is that this accounting system, this blockchain, is very intensive. I call it a lot of bureaucracy. And this is actually what makes it kind of expensive. All of these millions of computers, there's a lot of bureaucracy behind the scenes. And in fact, for most companies, the benefit of blockchain is not offset by the cost of using it because of all of this overhead. I have suggested on occasion that if we could come to a blockchain light, in other words, have all of the functionality of blockchain without all of the overhead, then maybe we'd have something. But I've been watching this for 5 years, and I've even been asking accounting firms, are you seeing blockchain replacing you out there? And the answer has been no. There have been dozens, if not hundreds, of pilot projects with blockchain, and each of the pilot projects do demonstrate there can be great value with blockchain, but they don't necessarily show value that exceeds the cost of implementing it. So, you know, I think the future, that may be the important thing if we can get the overhead part of it down. That's why we have to keep watching it.